The morning started like any other Tuesday at Bradley's Bakery in Brooklyn, New York. The bell above the door jingled softly as customers shuffled in, their chatter mixing with the hum of the coffee machine. The warm, yeasty scent of fresh bread curled through the air, wrapping the shop in a comforting embrace. I, Emily, stood behind the counter, arranging golden croissants in the display case, my apron dusted with flour. It was a routine I'd loved since I was a kid, helping my grandparents in this very shop. But that morning, something felt off, like a storm brewing just out of sight. I didn't know then that my husband, Michael, was about to shatter 15 years of our family's legacy in mere minutes. The bell rang again, and there he was, striding in, his sharp suit crisp against the cozy backdrop of the bakery. His smile was perfect, as always, but his eyes darted around, scanning every corner, every shelf. He leaned over the counter, planting a quick kiss on my cheek. The gesture was familiar, yet his touch felt distant, almost calculated. "You're here early," I said, sliding a tray of cinnamon rolls into the case. My hands moved on autopilot, but my mind snagged on his presence. "I thought you had a big meeting today." Michael tapped his fingers on the counter, a nervous rhythm I rarely saw. "Yeah, I do. Actually, that's why I'm here." His voice was smooth, too smooth, like he was pitching a deal. Before I could press him, my dad, George, emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. "Michael, good to see you," he called, his smile warm but tired. What happened next unfolded like a slow-motion disaster. Michael reached into his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers, his tone calm, practiced. "I've been reviewing the bakery's finances, George. I think I found a solution to your cash flow problem." My stomach twisted. Cash flow problem? I handled most of the accounting and we were fine, weren't we? George's face clouded, his brow furrowing. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Michael's smile didn't falter. "You gave me access last month, remember? For that loan application." The words hit me like a slap. "Loan application?" My rolling pin slipped from my hands, clattering to the floor. "What loan application, Michael?" I asked, my voice sharp. He didn't even glance my way. "This is business, Emily," he said, his eyes fixed on George. "I've found issues in the books. Serious ones." I stepped closer, heart pounding, but Michael pressed on, laying out his plan, a plan that sounded more like a takeover than a rescue. The air in Bradley's bakery grew heavy, the scent of fresh bread now tinged with tension. I, Emily, stood frozen behind the counter, my heart thudding as Michael's words echoed in my mind. "Loan application? Cash flow issues?" His stack of papers lay on the counter like a guillotine, and my dad, George, stared at them, his face pale. Michael's voice, calm and calculated, sliced through the silence. "George, I've uncovered serious problems in the bakery's books. But my company, Horizon Group, can fix this." His smile was a mask, unwavering, predatory. "Fix what?" I snapped, stepping between them. "We're not in trouble, Michael. You're lying." My voice trembled, but I held his gaze. He pulled out another document, his tone unshaken. "This is from the health department. They found violations last week. Serious ones. They're threatening to shut you down." My blood ran cold. We'd passed our inspection 3 weeks ago, hadn't we? I grabbed the paper, scanning it, my hands shaking. The violations listed mold. Improper storage felt like fabrications, but they were stamped, official. George's shoulders slumped, his eyes darting to me, then back to Michael. "How did this happen?" he whispered. Michael leaned in, his voice almost gentle. "Sign over control to Horizon Group, and we'll cover the fines, stabilize the finances. You can keep working here, George, just under better management." The words were a trap, and I saw it, but George hesitated, his hand hovering over the pen. "Dad, no." I grabbed his arm. "He's stealing our bakery." Michael finally looked at me, his eyes cold, victorious. "This is for the best, Emily. Without this deal, you lose everything." I wanted to scream, to tear the papers apart, but George's hand trembled as he reached for the pen. "We have no choice, do we?" he murmured. I watched, horrified, as he signed, each stroke of the pen erasing the legacy my grandparents built in 1962. The bakery where I baked my first cookie, where Mom worked until she passed it, was gone in moments. Michael gathered the papers, snapping his briefcase shut. My team will be here this afternoon to start the takeover. Don't worry, you both still have jobs. The doorbell jingled as he left, his expensive cologne lingering like a stain. George slumped against the counter, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "What have I done?" he whispered. I couldn't answer. The warmth of the bakery felt hollow now, its heart ripped out. But deep inside, a spark of defiance flickered. Michael thought he'd won, but this wasn't over. The bakery's bell stopped ringing, but the silence in my life screamed louder. After Michael stole Bradley's bakery, the wreckage didn't end there. That night, I dragged myself home to our Manhattan apartment, my chest tight with grief. The door creaked open, and there was Michael, packing his designer suits into a suitcase. His face held no remorse, just the cold efficiency of a man closing a deal. "It's just business, Emily," he said, zipping the case shut. "Nothing personal." I stood in the bedroom doorway, watching him fold his shirts with precision. "How long have you been planning this?" My voice cracked, but he didn't pause. "Does it matter? You'll never be enough, Emily. The bakery was just the start. I'm building an empire." He brushed past me, pausing at the door. "My lawyer will reach out about the divorce. Try not to make it messy." The front door slammed, and I collapsed to the floor, the weight of betrayal crushing me. Tears fell, but something else stirred a fire, small but fierce. Michael thought he'd broken me, but he'd only ignited my resolve. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and dialed Sarah, my best friend and the only lawyer I trusted. "He can't do this," I said when she answered, my voice raw. "There has to be a way to fight back." Sarah's calm tone anchored me. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't sign anything else." But it was too late. By the time Sarah arrived, Michael's legal team had locked down the bakery. Within a week, Dad was forced into retirement with a pitiful severance, and I was told my services were no longer needed. The days blurred, but one call changed everything. Olivia, a restaurant manager who'd been trying to recruit me for months, picked up on the first ring. "When can you start?" she asked, her voice warm but firm. I hesitated, then smiled through my tears. "Tomorrow. I need to learn everything about running a restaurant." "Everything." Olivia chuckled. "You're holding the knife wrong already, but we'll fix that." The next morning, I stepped into her upscale Manhattan restaurant, the clatter of pots and the sizzle of grills a stark contrast to the bakery's quiet warmth. I was no longer a master baker, but a rookie cook, starting from scratch. The irony stung, but it also fueled me. Michael had taken my past, but I'd build my future. Every chop, every stir, was a step toward reclaiming what was mine, not just the bakery, but my strength, my purpose. 6 months had passed since Michael tore Bradley's bakery from my hands, and I, Emily, was finding my footing in a new world. Olivia's upscale restaurant in Manhattan buzzed with energy, the air thick with the scent of seared steak and fresh herbs. I stood at the prep station, my chef's knife awkward in my grip, a far cry from the rolling pin I once wielded with ease. "You're chopping like you're angry at the onions," Olivia teased, adjusting my hold. "It's an extension of your arm, not a weapon." I muttered an apology, my fingers fumbling to mimic her precision. Old habits died hard, but I was learning slowly, painfully to rebuild. During a quiet moment, Olivia leaned against the counter, her eyes sharp. "Have you seen the news? Your ex-husband's making waves." My knife slipped, nearly nicking my finger. "No," I said, focusing on the onions to hide the sting in my chest. "I've been avoiding it." She nodded. "Smart, but you should know Michael's buying up small restaurants, turning them into chains. They're calling him the king of fast casual in New York." The words burned, but I kept chopping, the onion's heat masking the tears pricking my eyes. "Good for him," I said, my voice tight. A commotion in the dining room broke the tension. A server burst into the kitchen, flustered. "Ethan Carter's here again." Olivia cursed softly. "Third time this week." I raised an eyebrow. "Who's Ethan Carter?" Olivia sighed. "Rising star in the restaurant world. Expands fast, but focuses on quality, unlike your ex. He's trying to poach my staff. Curiosity pulled me to the dining room, where Olivia confronted a tall man in a tailored suit. Ethan's voice was cool, confident, as he chatted with one of her chefs. "Just a friendly talk with your talented team," he said, flashing a disarming smile. Olivia wasn't having it. "My staff's not interested." But I stepped forward, ignoring her warning glance. "I might be. I'm Emily, former owner of Bradley's Bakery." Ethan's eyes lit with recognition. Michael's ex heard about that mess. His bluntness caught me off guard, but I held my ground. "Why are you here?" He glanced at Olivia, then back at me. "Coffee. There's a place around the corner." 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet cafe, steam rising from our espressos. Ethan leaned back, studying me. "You're learning restaurant management to get back at Michael, aren't you?" I didn't deny it. He pulled out his phone, showing me a spreadsheet. Michael's expanding too fast, taking on debt. His empire's shaky. I stared at the numbers, my pulse quickening. "How do you know this?" Ethan's smile turned sharp. "I've been watching him. Want to help speed his fall." The decision to join Ethan Carter's team at Levi's Restaurant Group in Manhattan felt like stepping onto a tightrope. I, Emily, stood in his sleek office, the city skyline glittering through the window, my heart racing with equal parts fear and resolve. Ethan's offer wasn't just a job, it was a chance to strike back at Michael, the man who'd stolen Bradley's Bakery and my life. But the weight of leaving Olivia, who'd given me a lifeline, pressed hard. "You're sure about this?" Olivia had asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. I nodded, promising to stay in touch. Now here I was, ready to learn the game Michael played so ruthlessly. Ethan slid a tablet across his desk, numbers glowing on the screen. "Horizon Group's in trouble," he said, his tone sharp. "Michael's IPO is coming, but his finances are a house of cards." I scanned the data, debt piling up, new locations bleeding cash. My pulse quickened. "He's overextended," I murmured, seeing the cracks in Michael's empire. Ethan leaned forward, eyes glinting. "Exactly. In 18 months, maybe less, it'll collapse. Unless we push it over first." His words hung in the air, daring me to act. He outlined his plan. I'd train under him, mastering the business side of restaurant strategy, finance, operations. Then, when the moment was right, we'd move to buy Horizon Group out from under Michael. "You'd be the face of the deal," Ethan said, "with my capital backing you." My hands trembled at the thought. Me, taking over Michael's company? It was audacious, almost unthinkable, yet the fire in my chest burned brighter. "Why me?" I asked, searching his face. Ethan's smile was calculating. "You know his weaknesses. You've seen him destroy. Now, you'll outsmart him." I dove into the work, poring over financial reports, shadowing Ethan in high-stakes meetings. Each lesson sharpened my skills, but the real test came one evening when my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, my lawyer friend. "Turn on the news," she wrote. I opened a browser, and there it was, Horizon Group's IPO announcement, Michael's face plastered across the screen, touting his unstoppable growth. But Ethan, sitting across from me, pointed to a new spreadsheet. "Look closer. His stock's shaky. Investors are nervous." He slid a business card my way. "Join me for real, Emily. We move fast, or he goes public, and taking him down gets harder." I gripped the card, my mind racing. Olivia's faith, Sarah's support, and now Ethan's plan, it all converged into one truth. This was my shot, not just for revenge, but to reclaim my power. The conference room at Horizon Group's Manhattan headquarters buzzed with tension, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and desperation. I, Emily, sat beside Ethan Carter, my heart pounding as we faced a table of executives, lawyers, and a visibly rattled Michael. His eyes flicked to me, narrowing. "What's she doing here?" he demanded, his voice sharp. Ethan's tone was smooth, unshaken. "Ms. Bradley is my COO. Her expertise in turning restaurants around is central to our proposal." I stayed silent, watching Michael squirm, his confident mask slipping as Ethan laid out our offer to buy Horizon Group. The numbers were generous enough to tempt, but structured to give us full control. Michael's face reddened. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "We have other interested parties." Ethan leaned back, a faint smile playing on his lips. "The Singapore group pulled out yesterday. The private equity firm's lowballing. Face it, Michael, we're your best option." A board member cleared his throat, his expression grim. "Mr. Carter's right. We need to consider this seriously." The room shifted, the tide turning against Michael as hours dragged on, his arguments growing weaker. During a break, Michael cornered me in the hallway, his voice low, venomous. "What game are you playing, Emily?" I met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "No games, Michael. Just business." "Isn't that what you taught me?" His jaw tightened, but I pressed on. "Your books are a mess. Your concepts are outdated. You've been so focused on expansion, you forgot quality, just like with the bakery." His eyes flashed with anger. "The bakery failed because of you." I stepped closer, my voice calm but cutting. "The bakery was fine until you fabricated those violations. You set us up." He had no answer, and in that moment, I saw his empire crumbling. Back in the room, the board leaned toward our proposal, their murmurs of agreement drowning out Michael's protests. By the end, they voted to accept our offer. Ethan shook hands, his grin triumphant, but I stayed composed, gathering documents. As we left, I paused at the door, turning to Michael. "My lawyer will reach out about the handover. Try not to make it messy." His face twisted, but he said nothing. Ethan chuckled as we stepped into the elevator. "Did you see him? Priceless." I nodded, a quiet satisfaction settling in. This wasn't just about winning, it was about taking back what Michael had stolen, not with anger, but with precision. The real work, turning his failing restaurants around, lay ahead, but for now I'd claimed the first victory. The city lights sparkled below, and I felt, for the first time in months, like I was finally in control. The conference room at Bradley Enterprises, formerly Horizon Group, hummed with nervous energy. I, Emily, stood at the head of the table, my heels clicking on the polished floor as 30 pairs of eyes tracked me. As the new CEO, I faced executives and regional managers, including Michael, relegated to an advisory role at my insistence. "Good morning," I said, my voice steady. "As of 9 a.m., I'm your CEO." Whispers rippled through the room. Michael sat at the far end, arms crossed, jaw tight. "Let's address the elephant in the room," I continued. "Yes, I'm Michael's ex-wife." "No, this isn't about revenge. This is about survival." I clicked to a presentation, charts revealing plummeting profits and soaring costs. "These numbers don't lie," I said. A manager, Mark, interrupted. "We've grown through expansion." I cut him off. "Unsustainable expansion and cost-cutting." "When did you last eat at one of our restaurants, Mark?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Last month." I shook my head. "Every executive will work front and back of house for a week. You'll eat every menu item, talk to customers, then we'll regroup. Contracts are being updated. Objectors can resign by day's end." The room erupted in murmurs, but I held firm. "One more thing," I added. "We're reopening Bradley's bakery." Michael shot up. "You can't." "The lease," I smiled. "Read the contract, Michael." The meeting adjourned, executives muttering as they filed out. Michael lingered, his voice low. "You'll destroy what I built." I met his gaze. "No, I'm fixing what you broke." I turned to leave, then paused. "You start tomorrow at our Brooklyn location, 6 a.m. sharp. Don't be late." Back in my office, Sarah handed me coffee. "Some will quit," she said. "Good," I replied. "We need fresh blood." My phone buzzed, a viral video of Michael, still in his suit, berating a teenage cook in one of our kitchens. "Do you know who I am?" he shouted. The cook, unfazed, replied, "Dishes need washing, sir. Company policy." The video, with millions of views, trended online, Michael's downfall now public. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I focused on the bakery's reopening, announcing the Fresh Start Fund to support small food businesses, funded by Michael's settlement. At the Brooklyn site, Dad supervised new ovens, his pride evident. "This is where it restarts," he told a reporter. I stepped outside, Levi's text confirming our stock was rising. Victory wasn't Michael's humiliation, it was rebuilding something real. But the fight wasn't over. Michael's actions demanded justice, and I was ready to ensure it, starting with the bakery's revival and a new vision for Bradley Enterprises. The sterile hallway of the Brooklyn police station felt cold, but my resolve burned steady. I, Emily, followed the detective to the interview room where Michael sat, his designer suit crumpled, his face unshaven. Sarah whispered beside me, "Let him talk. It's better for us." I nodded, stepping inside. "You look awful," I said, sitting across from him. Michael's bitter laugh echoed. "A night in a cell does that." I placed a file on the table, my voice calm. "We can end this today, Michael. Tell the truth." His eyes met mine, defiant but weary. "Start with the health inspector you bribed to shut down Bradley's bakery." His jaw clenched, but I slid a document forward, statements from 3 suppliers confessing to his bribery scheme, backed by bank records and emails. "They're lying," he muttered, but the color drained from his face as he skimmed the evidence. "How did you find this?" he asked. I leaned in, unflinching. "I learned from you, Michael. Be thorough. But unlike you, I'm offering a way out." His scoff was hollow. "A way out?" I tapped the table. "Sign a full confession, pay restitution, testify against the others. Do it, and I'll recommend no jail time." His eyes flickered with doubt, then softened when I added, "Jennifer asked me to." The door opened, and Jennifer, Michael's sister, walked in. "Jen," he said, straightening, "you shouldn't be here." She sat beside me, her voice firm. "The evidence is clear, Michael. Do the right thing." Silence stretched, his gaze darting between us. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "I took the bakery because you loved it more than I did. I thought it'd make me bigger." The honesty stung, but I stayed steady. He reached for the confession papers, his hand trembling, and signed. "What happens now?" he asked. "You resign, pay back what you stole, and get help," I said. Jennifer squeezed his hand. "I'll take you home." I handed the confession to the detective outside, my heart lighter but not at peace. Back at Bradley's bakery, the grand reopening buzzed with life. Dad taught a young baker our sourdough recipe, the air warm with yeast and laughter. Customers lined up, reporters snapped photos, and the Fresh Start funds launched drew cheers. Levi, Olivia, and Jennifer mingled, while Clifford, Michael's father, took a cinnamon roll, his eyes misty. My phone buzzed. Michael was in treatment, making progress. I smiled, not for his fall, but for what I'd built. This was my empire, rooted in community, not greed. As I tied on an apron, the bakery's glow promised new beginnings, where justice wasn't revenge, but redemption through quality and care.